Okay, it's Wednesday, December 14th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and we ended up with a two-down day, moving below the low of yesterday's bar, and yet closing a bit neutral. And in the bigger picture, as we've been discussing for a little while now, we are still just inside of this big range. There's absolutely we're dead in the middle of it. So at this point, either this is going to be a great little pullback buy type of thing to break out on the upside, which we may or may not do. We might continue down and try to break to the downside, which we may or may not do. And we're very neutral in the bigger picture. But in terms of how today's set up, it was actually a decent day of trading opportunities. First of all, in terms of price opening, we knew that the Federal Reserve was going to have an announcement afternoon. So when we go to the 15-minute chart, right out of the gates, we had a nice up signal here all morning long that kind of moved first bar above the pre-market highs, then followed through. So you had all morning here, a little pullback, one more test of the highs. At that point, the Fed was ready to make an announcement. Obviously, we had a big drop that immediately took out the pre-market lows as a first target. Now, if you really wanted to play this quickly, you could have gone to the 5-minute chart, and when you saw the big breakdown and wanted to see if that was just going to be a temporary thing that came all the way back up, once it kind of paused in here, you can see on the 5-minute and had a 2 down, it was likely you were going to make another leg down. And obviously it came all the way back up, and then we closed near the lows. But in terms of even the 15-minute chart, if you were just following that, once we came down and kind of held this area, you did have the inside bar down right here to at least move down here. And you had a good half hour to kind of break even at the worst. If you wanted to take a very quick gain, and again, the reason you would have taken a quick gain is just you're in this big range here. So it's something where, it could have continued all the way down towards these lows, right, from this 15-minute bar here. But once you saw this kind of tail happen, buying came in, and this tail, you kind of sense you weren't getting the momentum to the downside below the pre-market range. So as it turns out, you came up a little bit, but then you came down. At no point were you above the midpoint of the prior day. So even that opening move really stopped where it normally would, given that you didn't start above the midpoint of this day and head higher. So even though the opening price action was very nicely biased to the upside, and based on yet we were talking about, I think I gave a morning update where we still knew it was going to be tough to take out that high, especially that news was coming, and just given that big drop, that was kind of a immediate sell. So to grind up against that was going to be tricky, and we never got above the midpoint of yesterday. So anyway, what it all means is there were good buys in the morning. You should have been sitting out for most of the afternoon, the way I see it. And now we are dead set in the middle of a range. We'll have to see if the pre-market range kind of wants to bring us up above this high tomorrow, or down, continuing lower to the low. Either way, we should at that point kind of test the high or low of this range. And then once that happens, we determine whether we just pause here and then start back up, or do we go up and pause and then immediately come down. It's tough to say. Even coming into today, I said the same thing. We're in the middle of a range. At any point, you could fail in this area, but you kind of got to go with that early morning flow. So the early morning flow was up today. It was down yesterday, and that's all we can do. And at some point, we're going to break out of this sideways, area in the bigger picture. Let's see how the week ends. Also, we have a potential failure week developing here, taking out the highs of that week, moving to the midpoint of the prior week. So we still kind of biased a little bit to the downside, but given the fact we couldn't follow through strongly when we had some negative reaction, that I could also easily see us going up as well. So just let's play it by ear and kind of see how price opens tomorrow.